That's gonna hurt. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Snob, where I know music unless it sucks. Well, that's just how I feel because I'm a music snob. I want to talk about Van Halen today. Now, as you can guess from that horrible opening thing that I always wreck every song. What I want to talk about today in Van Halen is Dave versus Sammy. Now, this is going to piss off somebody on either side. It doesn't matter to me. I'm sorry. But what I want to talk about, like a while ago, I had done a video on why I think Sammy Hagar is underrated. And I got to thinking about Dave. Dave is a weird guy, but he's entertaining as hell. And I'm going to have to do a music snob about that guy at some point. Well, sooner than later, maybe next week. Couple weeks. But sometimes you get a band. Sometimes you get band, well, there's been a bunch of bands. Some have, they say you have a band. It's a very successful band. You got a great lead singer. Everything's going super awesome. And then for whatever reason, that singer has to leave. What do you do? You got to replace them, or you become an instrumental band. What do you got to do? So you have a choice. You can try to get somebody who sounds similar. And I don't know, I guess for an example, I could go with Judas Priest. You could go with Journey. Come on. I don't want to slag Journey a lot. But Arnel Pineda, I sure hope I didn't screw up his name again. He sounds close enough that if somebody doesn't know that Steve Perry hasn't been in the band for 35 years, that they think it's the same guy. That's the thing. Judas Priest, they went for a guy doing a cover in a cover band of Judas Priest. So what's the difference? I don't know if a lot of people know that Chicago, after Peter Cetera left, they hired a guy, and he sort of had a high-pitched voice. So where do you go? Do you go with somebody who sounds sort of like that? Or do you go a completely different direction and get somebody who's so different that you've started either a new era in your band and maybe made enemies of old fans or made new fans, and other bands that have done this. Fleetwood Mac. Do you remember anybody who was in that band before Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks? Do you remember anybody? You probably don't. Iron Maiden had a different singer before Bruce Dickinson. They also had another singer for a while, and then he came back. So before we continue, I hate when other people do this. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I would appreciate it if you would like or subscribe. And if you like the video, share it with your friends. I want to keep doing this stuff, and there's a chance I might make money at it. Who knows? I don't know. Let's just say please like or subscribe. What I want to do here at the Music Snob, sometimes I do profiles on artists that maybe were overlooked, or maybe people kind of forgot that they're a great rock band and they just kind of focus on their ballads or whatever. Maybe a vocalist that did a lot of great work outside of the thing that they're most known for. Sometimes I like to maybe pick a topic like this and we'll have like an open discussion. In the comments below, leave a comment. If you like Sammy better, you like Dave better. I'm going to come up with different reasons why one trumps the other, if you will. And that's a word I don't like using. So if you're a fan of rock and roll, and keep watching the music stuff, because I do other stuff. I do the easy licks.
Easy licks.
And I did some unboxing of different instruments. I got tons of instruments. We're not going to talk. Well, Mr. Pink, and Purple Haze over there. There he is, Barry the baritone. I know it's dark, but anyways, welcome to the Music Snob. We're going to talk today about Van Halen, Dave versus Sammy. Now, again, the reason I want to talk about this is everybody knows who Skid Row is. Everybody knows who Sebastian Bach is. But they have not played together in 30 years. They haven't been together. Has Skid Row ever been as successful? They've had a lot of different singers. And for me personally, when Lizzie Hale was fronting the band for about a month there, that was the best they were ever going to be. And that's just my opinion. You can complain. I don't care. But, you have to change the vocalist. We're not going to discuss Gary Cherone. When Gary Cherone did the one album, that was it, and I liked it. I personally love that album. I think it's a great album. It sold less than 1 million copies. They did like a kind of a little bit of a tour. What I like about Gary, I'm not really a big fan of Extreme, but I'm starting to like some of their later stuff. I don't think I even knew who he was when he joined, but he, unlike Dave will not sing a Sammy song. Sammy will sing the odd Dave song. Gary Cherone would do both. He's open to everything. So, polyamorous, I guess? I'm not sure. But I want to talk about Gary Cherone, even though he was I think he was a great addition at one point. Just people didn't accept it. Now, why were people willing to accept Sammy? I don't know. But you have the two factions. You have people who just think Sammy's the best thing ever, and you have people who think that Dave is the best thing ever, and that Van Halen was destroyed when Sammy came in. I personally became a bigger fan of Van Halen when Sammy came in, so maybe I'm on that side. I don't want to slant, but personal preference. People have their thoughts. Well, speaking of warring factions, now. When the Doobie Brothers, when the original singer, Tom Johnson, when he quit, or when he had to quit because he was ill, and then Michael McDonald came in. Now, were there people during the Michael McDonald era that were like, well, we got to get John Legend back? Was that happening? Were they fighting about it? I know there's no internet back then, but now they're all on tour together. Van Halen can't, unfortunately, do that now. There was discussion of the Kitchen Sink tour and have Sammy and Dave and Gary, and bring Michael back. But we didn't get that. The Doobie Brothers doing it. So, what about AC/DC? If Bon Scott was still alive and he just quit AC/DC, would there be people fighting over who was the better singer of AC/DC? Would there be people that think that Axl Rose was on par? Anyways, we're going to talk about Van Halen. That's what we're talking about today. So I'm gonna divide this into three kind of categories. What did Sammy or Dave do before they were in Van Halen? What did they accomplish during the time in Van Halen? And what have they accomplished after leaving Van Halen? And then maybe we'll try to figure out a way to add points and see who's the better monetarily, or just everybody has their opinion. You can love Dave, you can love Sammy, you can love Gary, but the numbers don't lie. When we talk about album sales or say number ones, whatever, it's going to lean in one direction, no matter how much you think it should be the other way. Now, I'm going to count live albums because there is significance in the live albums, but greatest hits you can't really count because the initial Greatest Hits Volume 1 had some new Dave stuff, and I believe, did it have a Sammy? But I know that the Best of Both Worlds, had some Sammy as well, Sammy and some Dave. So you can't really, they're together. So you can't really count the Greatest Hits into this whole discussion, I don't think. Okay, category 1, before Van Halen, and we're going to start with Dave. Diamond Dave David Lee Roth, 1954. He was born in 1954. In Bloomington, Indiana, he moved to Pasadena as a teenager. He was prone to bouts of hyperactivity. I don't know if everybody knew that, but it does explain a lot. They called it monkey time. Does he still call it monkey time? Because I've seen some videos lately where it very well could be monkey time. He was in a number of LA bands before he met the Van Halen brothers, and then Mammoth, and then they became Van Halen. So that's all he did. So Sammy Hagar, before Van Halen, the Red Rocker, Sam, Roy Hagar? Is it Roy or Ray? Do we care? Yeah, it was Roy. Born in 1947, so he's got 7 years on Dave. In Salinas, California. Started his first band when he was 14 years old. Was visited by a ship with alien people, and they're in the ship. There's that. Yeah, you make fun of either way. I don't care. Dave had his hyperactivity, and Sammy has his alien visit, which is fine. I'm not mocking either of them for that. Because if it wasn't for the aliens, Sammy would not have gone to see a psychic, and then the psychic told him to move to San Francisco, and then we got Sammy out of that. We got the Red Rocker out of that. So thank you, aliens. Joined Montrose in 1973. Huge hit, Bad Motor Scooter. He went solo in the later 70s. Had 8 solo albums. Huge hits. Only One Way to Rock, which I still don't know which way it is. I'm sorry, I don't. Somehow I'm missing it. I don't know which way it is. I think there's several ways you could rock. That's just how I feel. Heavy metal. I Can't Drive 55. This guy also had the, besides Montrose, also was in the Hagar, Sean, Aronson, Shreve band thing, which I think only did a live album. But that was a super group. That was his first super group. And, well, you don't really count Montrose, do you? So this guy did not need Van Halen. I'm sure, Dave probably would have figured out a way to become famous somehow, because he just was that guy. He was good at the sales pitch. He was good at the promoting, instigating, whatever, getting things going. But in this case, later on we tally this up. I would give 1 point to Sammy, because he already had, 2 kind of big bands. Like Montrose was huge at the time, and it was a super group, whether or not they had any hit records, with the HSAS, if you will. When you take into account, Dave had nothing going on really relevant before Van Halen. Sammy was in 2 bands. He had 8 solo albums, had classic hit songs already. Even if that's all he ever did, he would still have those hit songs before Van Halen. He did not need to join. So I'm going to go, people are going to be mad at me. I'm giving 2 points to Sammy for the before Van Halen, because he had solo hits and he was in a couple of big bands. So I'm just gonna 2 points. That's all you get. Yeah, that's where the numbers are really gonna point in one direction. This is the second category 2, during Van Halen. So start with Dave again. Dave, he probably brought Van Halen into the spotlight, because he was that kind of guy. He knew how to promote stuff, so he probably helped them. Like, I think it was his PA that they were using at the time. He's very flamboyant. He's he commanded the room, and he's up there doing splits. And you got a guy who's the biggest guitar player on the planet, which nobody knew yet. One of the best drummers that ever lived, one of the best bass players, and then you got a guy who's kind of just did he really sing? I don't know. Yeah, when you isolate his vocals, yeah, he sounds pretty good. But I don't even know if it's singing. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to do. It's like the Mick Jagger way of singing. There's a lot of spoken things going on. He does that little scream thing that he does, which I don't know if he can still hit that. But anyway, joined Van Halen, 1972. First album that they put out, Van Halen, 1978. Regarded as one of the greatest debut albums of all time. It sold 10 million copies in the US alone. It sold 16 million globally up to now. Okay. Number 19 on Billboard. And here's your classic songs: Running with the Devil, I'm not counting the Eddie stuff. Eruption doesn't count because we're talking about Dave here. Okay, so that's a classic. If I just did a thing about Eddie Van Halen by himself, Eruption we could talk about, but we're not going to talk about it now. It doesn't count. Only this time. You Really Got Me, but that was a cover of the Kinks song. Ain't Talk About Love, classic song. Jamie's Crying. You could also argue for On Fire and Ice Cream Man. You could, because everybody knows those songs. The whole album, everybody knows this stuff. So we could talk about any of that stuff. Van Halen 2, 1979. 6 million in the US, so a little bit less. A little bit. 7 million globally. Number 6 on Billboard, so they're rising. Classics. Dance the Night Away. Big song. Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Beautiful Girls. Next album, Women and Children First, 1980. 3 million US, so a little bit less. Globally, about 4 million. Number 6 on Billboard, so it has, well, it stayed about the same. Your classic songs, And the Cradle of Rock, and Everybody Wants Some. You can argue, put your comment down here. My notes. Put your comment down here about other songs you could consider classics from any of these albums, and we can talk about that in another video. Fair Warning, 1981. Number 5 on Billboard. So rose a little bit. 2 million US, 4 million global. So they're getting more, let's say they get more sales globally outside of the US, which is great. Classics, Mean Street, Unchained. So This Is Love. Like, I don't know if these are so much even radio hits, but they're classic songs. Everybody knows them. Everybody thinks about them. How did you define a classic song? There's so many great classic songs that weren't even singles. Everybody knows what they are. So I'm going to count everything I've said so far. I'm counting as a classic song for Van Halen with Dave. 1982, Diver Down. 4 million US, 6 million globally. Number 3 on Billboard. Again, going a little bit up. Classics. Well, this is the one where they had a lot of covers on the album. So, Oh Pretty Woman, cover. Dance in the Street, cover. Little Guitars, not a cover. Here's where I'm arguing these are classics. Big Bad Bill, which, kind of shows you where Dave was going in the future. A cover. Happy Trails. When I was a DJ many years ago, and I would play Van Halen's Happy Trails at the end of the night, get people to leave the goddamn bar. So, I think it's a classic. But this brings us 1984, which of course was released in 1984. 10 million US, 15 million global. Still not as big as their first album, even though had their first number 1 single, Jump. The album was number 2 on Billboard. So your classic singles, of course, Jump. You hear every 5 minutes on the radio. Yeah, I'm still not sick of it. I'll Wait was a great song. Panama, everybody knows Panama. Somebody ruined it earlier playing guitar. I won't say who it was. Hot for Teacher, classic guitar, classic solo, classic, just showcasing Eddie at his best. Now, here's where things, I'm going to add another thing for Dave in this one. Videos with Dave were more interesting. I think they're classic, and especially for a teenage boy.
Oh yeah.
Lots of pretty girls. You know what I'm saying? Lots of pretty girls in the videos. But the video for Hot for Teacher was great. Jump, you're just jumping around. But that, again, showcasing, in spite of the fact that it's showcasing Eddie's great keyboard skills and his great guitar skills. But then you got Dave is half the video of him doing splits. That's cool. So I'm going to count it as part of Van Halen. He was still technically in Van Halen when he released his first solo album, which is the EP, Crazy from the Heat. And that did about 1 million copies, I believe. And it had, again, 2 more classic videos. Just the Gigolo, Ain't Got Nobody, classic video. And California Girls. And I'll skip up until later when he rejoined. He did have a couple of songs on their greatest hits or whatever. Can't Get This Stuff No More. And Me Wise Magic, which to me, I love both of those songs. So can you count those as more Van Halen classics? And then Different Kind of Truth. This is kind of where it's kind of, for me, this tarnishes memory, and I want to take away a point. Even though it hit number 2 on Billboard, and it was 2012. Different Kind of Truth, 2012. These are big singles. Tattoo, She's the Woman. Do you remember? I remember Tattoo. So, do we really believe those are classics? But you know what? The entire time he was in Van Halen. Now, they've sold roughly 80 million copies, of which 53 million of those were with Dave in the band. So, at this point, it's kind of pointing. So, I would give, right there, I would just give, well, I'll add up points later, but right there, you should be giving him like a couple. But, you know, I don't want to take away a couple, you know what I'm saying? Different Kind of Truth. Like, this is where the argument is made. I'd like to remember the band for the best and not for the worst. And unfortunately, Different Kind of Truth, as much as everybody wanted to be great, it was great. It was great. And the live album, the Tokyo Dome, kind of, that tarnishes a lot. All right, let's talk about Sammy Hagar during his time with Van Halen. Again, he was already successful. He joined for the fun, and he made 3 new best friends for a while. Still has one. 5150, 1986. 6 million US, 9 million worldwide, but still successful. Not as big as the other ones. First number one album on Billboard. Their first number 1 on Billboard. As much as they were huge, this was their first big one, which says a lot about the adding of Sammy to the band. Everybody knew this was going to be great. Classics. Why Can't This Be Love? Number 3. Dreams. Love Walks In. Hit number 4. Best of Both Worlds. Now, some of these might not have been singles. Summer Nights. Still considered a classic because Sammy's out there right now and he's doing Summer Nights. And he's doing 5150. Classic songs. They weren't singles, but classics. 1988, OU 812. I love this album. 4 million US, 6 million worldwide. Number 1 on Billboard. It's their second number 1 album. So again, that's a positive. Classics include Black and Blue, When It's Love, which hit number 5. Finish What You Started. Now they hadn't done any real videos. Dreams was a video, but it just was footage of the Blue Angels flying around. So they had no real videos. They had, I think Love Walks In was just a performance video taken from the Live Without a Net concert. But nothing really until Finish What You Started, which was their first. And then let's say this was comparable to a Dave video because it's some pretty girls. You know what I'm saying? Feels So Good was, let's say, a minor hit. Okay. 4, Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, 1991. 3 million. Now it's going a little less. 5 million worldwide. So they're actually doing about 2 or 3 million on just the rest of the world. So they're expanding their foot in the ground, I guess, in the rest of the planet. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Number 1 on Billboard. It's their third number 1 in a row. Classic songs. Pound Cake. You can't forget about Pound Cake. Top of the World. Right Now, which I don't believe they had anything else in a Pepsi commercial at that point. So that was, remember Clear Pepsi? There's a story about that, but I'm not going to talk about it. 1993, Live, Right Here, Right Now. 2 million. Number 5 on Billboard. It was their first live album. Sammy, that's where I got to give Sammy some more points. And I already said this before. He does 4 David Lee Roth era songs on that. So he did Panama, he did Jump, he did did I say Panama? He Talk About Love, and also they did kind of a medley, You Really Got Me, with Cabo Wabo. And it's a cover, but it's still it's a Dave song. So you got to give another point to Sammy for that one. 1995, Balance. Great album. 3 million US, 5 million worldwide. Number 1 on Billboard. Their 4th number 1 in a row. I'm not counting live right here right now because it's a studio. I'm talking about studio albums. Classic songs. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. Can't Stop Loving You. Amsterdam. Not Enough. What can you say? After that, Humans Being, off the Twister soundtrack. Great song. On the Best of Both Worlds, Volume 1, I believe, or I think it was just the Best of Both Worlds, greatest hits. It's About Time. Sammy came back and did those. Up for Breakfast, Learning Sea, all great songs. Here's where things kind of go negative, we'll say, for Sammy. Sammy, and like here you go. You got 4 number 1s. So was that a point? 4 number 1 albums. You count the classic songs. Well, let's say 1 point for 4 number 1 albums. But they sold 26 million compared to Dave's 57. 57, 69, you do the math. Or was it 53? We'll have to look back at this and we'll count it. I'll recount it in a second. Number 1 album, number 1 singles. Dave had number 1 singles. Sammy had number 1 albums. Dave had 2 albums that sold more than 15 million copies. Now, I count up the classic songs, and you can count back if you want. I count 24 classics besides any other album cuts. 24 classics with Dave, of which 5 were covers. So, but it's still a classic. Sammy, 17-ish. So again, you got to give Dave a point. I don't even know how I'm keeping score of this at this point. I'm gonna try and tally up and kind of give somebody the win, even though it's gonna piss off a bunch of people. But leave your comment. We'll talk about it later. Category 3, after Van Halen. Dave. Now, Crazy from the Heat was released before he had it technically, but it was like 3 weeks. And then he decided he was leaving. Crazy from the Heat, 1985. 2 million copies in the U.S. Classics. California Girls. Just a Gigolo. Already talked about this. But also classic videos. First full real album. 1986. Eat 'em and Smile. And again, number 4 on Billboard. 1 million U.S. Yankee Rose classic song. Going Crazy. And again, the videos. The guys, great videos. That's Life, but it's a cover. And again, what I had said earlier about this is where this is the direction he's going. California Girls, Just a Gigolo. Those are, California Girls was a Beach Boys song, but Just a Gigolo and I Ain't Got Nobody were old, like standard, 1940s, 1950s kind of songs that I'm sure at some point Frank Sinatra did. So he had he wanted to be Frank Sinatra in a lot of ways, which is fine. I understand that. And then on Eat 'em and Smile, he did That's Life, which I know Frank Sinatra did. I'm Easy. Those are all old classic standard songs. So 1988, Skyscraper, 1 million copies. Classic songs, Just Like Paradise, Stand Up, Damn Good. Little Ain't Enough, 1991. I got no classic songs. About 500,000 copies sold. Your Filthy Little Mouth, 1994. DLR Band, 1998. Diamond Dave, 2003. Greatest Hits. Outside of Van Halen, after Van Halen, about 5 million. 5 million copies. That's what Dave has accomplished. And now let's talk about Sammy. Now we know Sammy was successful long before Van Halen was. And during Van Halen, he released I Never Said Goodbye, 1987. It only sold about 1 million copies, but again, and that was just to fulfill a record deal so he could do more Van Halen. Give to Live and Eagles Fly, both classic songs, and they played them all through the time in Van Halen when he would do like a solo part or whatever. 1997 was his first album after Van Halen. Marching to Mars. Little White Lie. Now, it's less than 1 million. Red Voodoo, which is one of my favorite albums, 1999. This is like a desert island album for me. This one I thought, when I started doing this, I thought this was going to slant one way, and I don't think it's going to. Red Voodoo, Did not sell a million copies. The big song off it, Mass Tequila. But I love every song on that album. But I couldn't tell you I love every song on a Dave album. But Serious Juju, Not for Sale, Living It Up. That was where he covered I Love This Bar by Toby Keith. Cosmic Universal Fashion, Sammy Hagar and Friends. So at this point, he's kind of throwing out albums every 2 weeks just to. Light Roast, At Your Service. Now he had the Waberitas, and they did whatever they did for a while. He had the Circle, and with Jason Bonham was playing, and Vic Johnson, and Michael Anthony has been playing with him since Van Halen off and on. He released a couple albums with the Circle, like I said, At Your Service, Space Between, the Lockdown album. And then he formed another great big super group, Chickenfoot, who released just a couple albums. And again, surprisingly, with you got Joe Satriani, and you still got Michael Anthony, you got Chad Smith, and even if you went out with Jason Bonham playing drums, it's still you can still call it Chickenfoot if you want. Classic songs. Oh yeah, Soap on a Rope, Sexy Little Thing, Bigfoot. I don't even know if I remember that one. Different Devil. So let's look at that. Dave has sold about 5 million albums outside of Van Halen. Sammy before 3.5-ish, after 3.5-ish, maybe 7. So I give him a point for before Van Halen, but after Van Halen, you gotta give it to Dave. You just gotta. So let's say before Van Halen, I give it to Sammy. I give him 2 points. See if we can keep track. This side. Well, this is the Sammy side, or is this? I can't remember anymore. Before I'm giving Sammy 2. During, you gotta give Dave a point for having the most albums. You gotta give Dave a point for a number 1 single. You gotta give Dave a point for the most classic songs. But I gotta take away a point for Different Kind of Truth. I just gotta, and the Tokido. So I'm giving him 2. Sammy during, they didn't sell as many albums. They were sustaining, they were doing well, but you gotta give it to Dave. You just got it. You can't argue with the numbers. You just can't. Solo stuff. Sammy has had a lot of great albums, and a lot of great singles, but somehow Dave has sold more of his solo stuff. Now I'm going to take this into account. How many great Sammy Hagar videos can you think of? Dave, Just Gigolo, California Girls, Going Crazy, Yankee Rose, just those, and then you go back into Van Halen and the video for Pretty Woman and Hot for Teacher, and you can't deny that. So, and again, I can't even think. Sammy, one great video. The rest of them maybe they're performance videos. But here's why I give Sammy a point for covering Dave's stuff live, because Dave can't do that. So was Sammy a better singer? I think he might have been. The fact that the first tour Sammy could play guitar, and Eddie could just go over and play keyboards if he wanted to. And after that, he kind of stopped. But one is a true musician, I think. I've seen Dave play guitar, but he couldn't be a lead player. He couldn't play, Sammy I Never Said Goodbye album, played the guitars on that. Eddie played bass. Mama sang dinner. It's a reference. So I gotta give Sammy a point for that. And you know what it all works out to. I can't. I don't know what the number is right off my head right now. So I'm gonna tally it all up, and then when I edit this, I put ding 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 ding. But I already know the answer. It's Dave. You can't deny it. Sold more albums. Really more entertaining in that respect. I love Sammy, and I wish he would take the tour to Canada, the Best of All Worlds tour. I wish he would come to Canada. I love Dave, but I personally I like Sammy more. But you got to give it to Dave. You just gotta. He is a guy. He's an interesting individual. Whatever he's doing now, which I think just consists of YouTube videos, he's interesting. He's put out a lot of really interesting stuff. Sammy has put out great rock, but how much of it is really, let's say, experimental? Let's be like that. He plays good, straight ahead, incredible rock and roll, incredible vocalist, incredible entertainer. Still going out there. He's like 76, 77. I'm not even sure. And he's on tour right now, and he's just kicking asses every day. And God, I have nothing but respect for this guy. Dave, maybe you can look at it negatively and say, well, this is all what he accomplished in the 80s or 90s. But he did it in a lot shorter time frame. So burn out bright if you want. Or let's slow and steady runs the race. Maybe in the long term, maybe Sammy's stuff will outsell. I don't know. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Thank you for the snide comments that either side's going to put up here, and maybe the arguments it might cause. I appreciate it. But maybe if you want, leave your comment. If you want to say you think, no matter what the numbers say, that Dave is better, put it down there. I don't care. If you think Sammy's better, put it down there. And you know what? If enough people do it, maybe I'll put up a video in a couple of weeks and say, this is audience choice or fans' choice. This guy was voted more popular in spite of the fact that this guy may have sold more. Let's just say that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this kind of crap. I kind of like doing it. I wish other people would enjoy it. Don't forget to share. Send it to your friends. Ruin their day if the music's not. But, thanks for watching.
The Music Snob.
And if I can think of another great little topic like this to talk about one day, I'll pull it out of my butt. But as always, thanks for watching.
Bye.
And if you know music, be a music snob.